Whether you're a practicing spiritual practitioner, someone to improve self-development, or you're looking to start a spiritual business, one of the number one things you have to start with is your own self-talk. And what I mean by self-talk is how we speak to ourselves in our own mind, especially during the times when things aren't going our way. Are we quick to label ourselves a failure, or to pick up those old labels that from the schoolyard bullies, or old ancestral patterns, things that our parents may have caused us, or former lovers? Oftentimes when we're feeling low vibrational, we go back to that negative self-talk, and that's what keeps us on what I call the hamster wheel of negative self-talk. And the only way to get off the wheel is to just jump off. Sometimes, once your brain starts going into that negative place, I will often use a technique I used when I was teaching adults with developmental disabilities with myself. If I start saying, oh my God, this is going downhill, I'm a complete loser or failure, which I do every great now and then still, I'll be like, stop. I'll do the sign language for stop, and it stops me in my tracks. Because that's what you got to do. You got to stop that negative self-talk in its tracks. The biggest problem with spiritual practitioners, and the biggest thing is we tend to not say, oh, I'm a loser, I'm a failure. We've usually grown past that. What we battle with is imposter syndrome. Oh, I'm not really psychic, or I don't have any special gifts. When you start to do that to yourself, you literally start to lose your gifts. Now, if you're not a spiritual practitioner and you're looking to self-develop, negative self-talk is going to be the thing that builds up your confidence, that gets you that date. Like eliminating the self-talk is what's going to get you that date, get you that job, manifesting that money. It's mindset, money mindset, love mindset, dating mindset. And for everybody, whether you're a spiritual practitioner or just someone looking to develop confidence, this is the number one way to do it. First, protecting yourself with crystals from the more negative energies that's the first step. The second step is dealing with your own demons, because we can blame the people around us all we want for our negative mood, but the fact is we choose how we feel every day. And we can either choose to be happy, or we can choose to focus on the low vibration. And we have so much more control over the own thoughts in our head than we ever think. And just even if you have a negative thought, you don't have to beat yourself up and say, oh my God, I'm talking negative again. Because even the highest of vibration spiritual practitioners like myself, who's been practicing for 20 years, occasionally slide back in. And I've got to remind myself, like, no, this speaking to myself in that way is only going to bring in more negativity to me, and only going to make the people around me treat me the way I'm speaking to myself. Because that's the number one way to get people to treat you right, is to treat yourself right. And the number one way to start treating yourself right, besides, eating healthy foods and doing that, a part of your self-care needs to be evaluating what you're saying to yourself every single day. And if you're finding yourself saying negative things to yourself, write it down and look at it and evaluate it and say, is that even true? Am I really a failure? I want you to critically think about the negative thoughts and see, where did it come from? When did that start? Were you with a certain person and then went home and then all of a sudden started having these negative thoughts about yourself that when before you were just fine? You may want to reevaluate that relationship, but you also are still going to have to take charge and say, no, I am not going to let that negativity affect me. I see this most often in people dealing with toxic work environments. They will bring that right home with them. And the advice I give them is, I say, leave it at work. Do not allow yourself to think about the mean girls or mean boys at work, or that boss that you just can't stand at home. Have a healthy boundary and set it at home. And we will talk a little bit more about sacred space and this concept as well. leaving that negative energy at the office or leaving that negative energy where it came from. It can even be Thanksgiving dinner with your family. And you get home and you feel completely drained, and all of a sudden you're feeling like the ugly duckling your mom called you 20 years ago. And you have no idea why, because before you went, you were feeling great and your career's on point and you just met a beautiful girl, and then all of a sudden you're hanging out with mom and you're like, oh my God, I'm the worst, I'm a loser. It happens to all of us. It really does. And you can shake that off. You're still, even if other people make you feel a certain way, there is a way to just let that go by telling yourself, let it go. I am not that. And then you write down the negative thought, then you write down why it's not true, then you write down the counter to that. I am a winner. I am successful. And by putting it down on paper, it makes it a lot more real. And then you can look back and see your growth. See how you went. And then you will feel you'll have a much better day once you just let that go. I'll talk a lot in the Spiritual Baths module about how to release that from your aura. In the smudging module, I went over how to cleanse your aura as well, because often those negative thoughts that people have about us, especially if we're exceptionally sensitive, will stick to us. That's why I also recommend the protective crystals, because I guarantee you, if you're around people like that who make you feel that way, wearing a protective crystal around them will actually prevent that from happening at all. But these are all little tools in our tool belts, and there are certain people that are so good at triggering us that even crystals don't work. Crystals are not a miracle. Smudging is not a miracle. It's using all of these tools in tandem. You want to see these as spiritual tools in your tool belt. So you put the crystals on for protection, and then you shake, you cleanse those people off, and then you hop off the hamster wheel. It's all, that is the combo of the preventative spiritual medicine that I'm trying to teach you guys here. It's not, I get some crystals and everything's gonna be better. It doesn't really work that way. It's you've got to take all these approaches, creating the sacred space so that you can meditate, so that you can release the negative energy. Knowing about energy in general, knowing that it can stick to you. Most people aren't even aware of how much other people around them affect them. And most people aren't even aware that they're talking bad to themselves in the first place. There's your voice, there's the self-talk, and then there's intuition. And for my spiritual practitioners, one of the hardest things to do is to differentiate between that self-talk and that intuition. Your self-talk is going to sound like you. It's going to have your Boston accent or whatever accent you have. It's going to say the same things you say. Your intuition is going to be quiet. Your self-talk is going to yell. Your intuition is going to sound like an earth angel whispering sweet nothings in your ear. Your self-talk is going to be you obnoxious sloppy at a keg party. And what do you really want to listen to? The sloppy drunk in your head or the angel in your heart? The angel in your heart is going to actually be the one that's telling you the real truth. But you can also talk to the sloppy drunk in the head and get them cleaned up. And be like, hey, why don't we drink some water and speak more nicely to each other? And I swear that will help other people speak more nicely to you, and you speaking more nicely to others. Because you better believe if you're talking shit about yourself, you're probably talking shit about everybody else too. And that's the definition of low vibration. And that's the last place you want to be. So once we all get on the hamster wheel, we all jump on every now and then, and we ruminate and ruminate on how much we effed up, right? Stop. You stop yourself in that moment. You hop off the wheel, and you're like, I will be okay. And you write it down, and you do the work, and you grab your crystals, and you do a quick meditation. You watch my meditation class, and you get yourself right, because there's no reason to have 10 minutes ruin a full 24-hour period just because you're talking down about yourself. Once you're able to master self-talk and eliminate negative self-talk and incorporate more positive self-talk, you will see that it will impact almost every aspect of your life, whether it's the relationship with your children, your bosses, your spouses, your coworkers. It is the number one thing that spiritual practitioners absolutely need to master before you go out and help the public too, because that is the one thing that they are going to need the most help with. And this was one of the most vital modules in this set. And I know that once you're able to master self-talk in a way that is kind to yourself and others, things will never be the same for you again. Thank you.